talking about the faithfulness of God. For as long as I could know myself, the one thing has been constant is that God is always faithful, and He uses anybody or anything to ensure that His purpose is fulfilled and His glory is seen in the earth. So, for me, I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, at age 21. And what the doctor told me was that it's going to be very difficult to have children. And with PCOS, you normally gain weight, acne, oily skin, hair growth, like, all over the body. So I went through life like that. Don't normally see periods or menstruation. So it's difficult to know when you're ovulate, to know when you could possibly get pregnant. But, and it wasn't having a child was the farthest thing from my mind. But in 2009, I had started a law program at UTech, bachelor's program, because I was going to become a lawyer. Yes, I was going to be a lawyer. So I started the program, paid up my money, going to classes in August. It started in August, and it was like by September, I just didn't know. I just felt so sick. It kind of started feeling weird when I sleep out. I slept for one entire week. I didn't do any assignments. I was just so lethargic. I couldn't complete my assignments. So for midterm, it just seemed like I was gonna fail the first semester of the course of the program. And I just started to feel the one thing that triggered me was I felt for June plum, and I ate turkey neck for the first time, and it just made me sick. So it's like no matter what I took, the sickness just wouldn't go. And I had gone to the doctor earlier that week, and I just didn't feel right, and I just told him, I just feel so weak and tired. But they didn't do a pregnancy test. It was a suggestion from a neighbor of mine who's a nurse that, I think you should take a pregnancy test. And that was the first miracle that God did for me, where fertility was concerned. I became pregnant. I had morning sickness for about 4 months. So I couldn't eat anything. If I drank water, I brought it back up. The only thing I could probably drink and eat was pea soup. Fine. But God was just faithful during that pregnancy. And today's theme is God is faithful. And I wasn't prepared for a child. We were young. Relationship was a little rocky. So when I became pregnant, I was like, God, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So I went through the pregnancy, and I got everything I needed. Prenatal was taken care of. When I went to have my son, I was scheduled to have a vaginal delivery, and it was right. He was due during the Tivoli incursion, and I remember the last thing I ate was a stew piece from my mom. And the same night I had to go to the hospital because I started feeling contractions, and just know I could have died during that delivery because I was induced, and I couldn't have the child naturally because he literally was stuck at 5 centimeters. So I had to be rushed to do an emergency C-section. And I remember it was so scary during the incursion because all you could see were soldiers in the hospital at the time. So it's like I was escorted to the labor ward by a soldier. I'm like, this is serious. And going down to delivery to the theater, it was just, scary. And I came out. Postpartum wasn't as bad as my second pregnancy, but I just want to share that from I've had my son, I've not bought a piece of clothes for him. The only thing I do for him is to send him to school and buy a school uniform. He has been so blessed by my godmother, who became his godmother. So you might feel that, oh, you're in a situation and you don't know how you're gonna see it through, but God always provides assistance and help to ensure that you pull through. And even after I had my son, it was very clear that he was a special child. He was just a peculiar child. And he, at age 6, he requested to be baptized and to be saved. I didn't question it. I just said fine, because from as young as maybe 10 months, before he was 1 year old, he was always a worshiper. So I'm like, oh, this is very peculiar. And I wasn't going to church at the time, so it's like I felt like I had an obligation after he was born to kind of, have him grow in the way that I was growing in the fear of the Lord. So that kind of really helped me to want to pursue and go back to church. And another instance is that, remember, the doctor told me that it would be difficult to have children. And for my second child, in 2017, it was prophesied to me that, you're going to have a second child. And when the prophet told me, I laughed. I'm like, okay, a second child. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Because it wasn't like we weren't really trying, but I mean, at the same time, nothing really happened when, nothing happened. So I'm like, God, really? So I completed my MBA program. I'm like, oh, maybe it's time to, complete my family. So I went to the doctor, and one thing with PCOS, you don't have a period. So for me, when you do like a pap smear, it will come back abnormal because you're not shedding the lining. So sometimes you'll have to take medication to see your period. And the doctor suggested, okay, you need to probably go on the treatment. When you're ready to have a child again, I'm going to put you on a treatment to, stimulate your ovaries, etc. So, and I got the medication from about November, the prescription. I didn't fill it until April. And I was like, I prayed. When I finally got it, like, God, if I do this, and it don't it's not your will. Even though you said I'm gonna have a next child, I don't think it's your will to do this via this method. And when I researched the medication, I've seen persons saying that you have to do the combination, or the whatever the medication, you have to do it about 3 cycles. And I did it once, and that was it. Conceived, and it was so weird when I was 6 weeks, around 6-9 weeks, and I went to do my first ultrasound, because by that time I was starting to get sick again. Morning sickness was so horrible. I couldn't eat anything, and even to drink the water to do the ultrasound, I had to drink Gatorade. And even to drink that, I was like, God, please don't vomit on the people in place. So I was like in the ultrasound room, and she scanned, and she was looking, and she looked, and she's like, are you sure you didn't bleed out or anything? I'm like, why? She's like, well, your sac is empty, and there's hemorrhaging around the sac where the baby in the uterus. And I'm like, oh, is that so? And then while she was there, I said, okay, so that was the report I got, the sac is empty. So I'm like, okay. That night I was like, God, I know you're not a liar, and you are not a liar. You are not a liar. And you already told me, you gave me dreams and visions about this child. She showed me it's supposed to be a girl, and he showed me the baby. So at one point he showed me a baby that looked exactly like my son. I'm like, why am I having a boy? I thought I was having a girl. And when she was born, she looked exactly like my son. But that's not even the whole gist of it. I was telling God that after the ultrasound, you're not a liar. And you declare that I'm going to have a next child. And you told me it's going to be a girl. And this sack cannot be empty. So by the next ultrasound, it better not be empty. It wasn't empty at the next ultrasound. She was there. She had a heartbeat. I'm like, yes. And that pregnancy again, morning sickness for 4 months. I had to take Gravol suppositories. I couldn't eat. I had to miss work. The only thing I could keep them was like a smoothie, like a frozen drink. I was at work and I couldn't eat. I was just in the bathroom. Like, God, I lost so much weight, and during that whole time, it takes a toll on you emotionally. So it was just hard. The pregnancy was hard. It was so hard. And then at 7 months, when I finally got over the hurdle of being able to eat again, I was told I have gestational diabetes. At one point, they had to be drawing blood 7 times. That they stick me 7 times in one session to draw blood to test me to see how bad it was. It was really bad. I had to be taking sticking myself every morning before I eat, after I eat, and keep a log and to keep down my sugar levels. Because one thing with that is that you can have, the baby can grow to be so large, and has been monitoring what I ate and sugar levels. And then I don't know, the pregnancy was hard. It was hard, I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard. And when it was time to have the baby, it was a scheduled C-section. The night before, and my big sister knew that I was like so afraid of C-section. So afraid. She came to stay with me for like a week after the baby to kind of help me around. And the postpartum, before I get to postpartum, I mean, when I went in, we booked and everything, and we deposit the money. When I was there, I'm like, God, at one point I think I took my entire pay to kind of complete that last payment, my entire pay. Because I'm like, God, no, don't embarrass me. So when it was like the last day in the hospital, and I'm like, God, I don't want to see this bill, because it's a private hospital. I'm like, God, I don't want to see that bill here, sir. So my husband told me, say, at $26,000 the balance. I'm like, what? He's like, are you sure? You better up and pay. I'm going to come out of that place before them to say a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. Because I already told God, you're a faithful God, and you will not embarrass me and not make me come out of here without paying the money and the full amount. But overall, God is faithful. I mean, in 2013, we got our first house, and I had just spoken a word like some years before, I want to own a home before I'm 30, and I got a house before I was 30, and I did not have to pay a deposit. The only deposit I paid was $3,500 to NHD, because it was like a special case and it's a special kind of unit. It was government workers. So all I paid was $3,500 for a house. Last year when I said I wanted to buy a car for my birthday this year. Last year the Holy Spirit said, you need to go and test drive your vehicle. Go and test drive the vehicle. When I test drove the vehicle, the rep was telling me, oh, you can go and do this and you can do that. And I'm like, what? And by the time I could say, I had a vehicle 2 months after, keys in hand, and it was just favor upon favor that God was bestowing upon me to get that vehicle, because He already spoke it. I'm like, why are you waiting until next year? Go now. So all I'm saying is, no matter what you feel like you're facing, God is faithful.